Whenever the creation story in Genesis 1 comes up, the conversation almost always lands in the exact same spot. It's this heated debate, right? Science versus faith. Is it a literal 7-day week, or is it just some poetic way of describing billions of years? But what if that whole debate, what if it's completely missing the point? Let's dig into this, because this ancient text might be playing a totally different game than most of us think.
And this is the familiar battleground. On one side, you've got the idea that God created everything in 6 literal 24-hour periods. On the other, the idea that the days are really just metaphors for vast geological ages. Now notice what both sides are doing. They're treating the text like it's a scientific report, arguing over the chronology, the how long of it all. But when we force our modern scientific questions onto an ancient theological document, we might actually be making it harder to hear what it was originally trying to say.
Okay, so let's just hit pause on that whole debate for a second. What if Genesis 1 isn't trying to answer our 21st century questions about the mechanics and timing of creation at all? What if it was written to answer a much more profound question for its original audience? See, asking that question, well, that changes everything.
All right, to start cracking this open, we've got to look at the first big clue. And it's hiding in plain sight. It's in the most debated word in the entire chapter, the Hebrew word for day.
That word is yom. Now, even in English, our word day can mean a few different things, right? Like back in my grandfather's day. Well, it turns out the Hebrew word yom is even more flexible. Its meaning almost completely depends on the context. It doesn't just have one single rigid definition. I mean, check this out. Right here in Genesis 1, the text itself tells us what yom can mean. It says God called the light day, or yom. So in this case, it's not a full 24-hour cycle. It's just the period of daylight. That's our very first hint that we need to pay really close attention to how this word is being used. But then, get this, just one chapter later, the Bible uses the exact same word, yom, to talk about the entire 6-day creation period all at once. So yom can mean a period of daylight, and it can also refer to the whole creation week. That flexibility is literally built right into the text itself.
And this isn't just a Genesis thing either. This happens all over the Bible. Phrases like the day of the Lord use yom to describe a whole future era of divine action, not just a single Tuesday. The main takeaway here is we can't just pick one meaning and force it onto the text. For the biblical authors, context was king.
So that's clue number 1. The word yom is super flexible. But clue number 2? Honestly, this one is even cooler. It's found in the beautiful, deliberate structure of the creation week itself. And when you see this pattern, it builds a powerful case for a completely different way of reading the story. Okay, so here's a classic puzzle that trips a lot of people up. The text talks about evening and morning for days 1, 2, and 3, but the sun, moon, and stars, the things that give us evening and morning, they don't even show up until day 4. So how does that work? Now, if you're reading this like a science textbook, that's a huge problem. But what if it's not a mistake? What if it's actually a brilliant literary hint pointing us to the text's design?
Okay, look at this. This is where the literary genius just shines through. The first 3 days aren't just random. They establish 3 distinct realms. On day 1, God creates the realm of time, light and darkness. Day 2, the realms of sky and sea. Day 3, the realm of dry land. Okay, now watch this. Days 4, 5, and 6 precisely fill the realms created on days 1, 2, and 3. Day 4 fills the realm of light with the sun, moon, and stars. Day 5 fills the skies and seas with birds and fish. And day 6 fills the land with animals and humans. It's this absolutely breathtaking symmetry. So what does all this symmetry tell us? Well, it's practically screaming that the author's main concern isn't a step-by-step manufacturing guide. The focus is on God's wisdom in ordering the cosmos, in bringing a functional, beautiful, harmonious world out of chaos. This is a story about function and purpose, not just assembly instructions.
And this idea of cosmic order brings us to another incredible detail in the text, one that kind of opens up the whole cosmic backdrop of the story and helps us understand where humanity fits into all of this. On day 6, when it's time to create humanity, all of a sudden, the language changes. For the very first time, God speaks in the plural. Let us make man in our image. Wait a second. Us? Our? Who is God talking to here? So yeah, who exactly is this us? The answer is pretty amazing, but you have to know a little bit about the ancient worldview to catch it, because it's a concept most of us just don't think about today. It's this idea of the divine council. See, the Bible often pictures God not as some lonely figure, but as a supreme king ruling over a whole heavenly court of spiritual beings. Sometimes they're called the sons of God or the host of heaven. And you see this idea pop up all over the place if you know to look for it. In Psalm 82, God is holding court in the divine council. In 1 Kings, a prophet sees God on his throne, surrounded by the hosts of heaven. In Job, the sons of God show up to present themselves. So for the original audience, when God says, "let us," they would have instantly pictured a divine king addressing his heavenly court, announcing his next big move. And what was he announcing? That humanity will be made in the divine image. Now back then, if a king wanted to show he ruled over a faraway land, he'd put a statue of himself there, an image. It was a physical symbol of his rule and authority. So what's happening here? We are created to be that living, breathing statue, the royal representatives of God, tasked to govern and care for the earthly realm on his behalf.
Okay, let's pull all these threads together. We've got the flexible word yom. We've got this incredible literary structure all about ordering. And we have God as a cosmic king. It all comes to a brilliant climax on the final day, day 7.
You know, when we hear that God rested, we picture him kicking his feet up, exhausted from a long week. But in the ancient world, divine rest was a far more powerful idea. It had nothing to do with being tired. It's what a god did after their temple was finally built. They would enter it, take their seat on the throne, and begin to rule from that place. It's an act of enthronement. So the story is painting this picture of the entire universe as God's magnificent temple. And that 7-day structure? It perfectly matches the 7-day dedication ceremonies for ancient temples, like Solomon's. The creation week isn't a factory timeline. It's a cosmic temple dedication ceremony. And on day 7, God isn't taking a nap. He's taking his throne to reign over the good and ordered world he just made. So when you put all of it together, the language, the literary structure, the ancient cultural context, you start to realize that Genesis 1 isn't even trying to answer the question we thought it was. The point of the story isn't to be a stopwatch. It's not asking, how long did it take? It's asking a much, much bigger question. Who is in charge of all of this? Who rules the cosmos? And what's our part to play in it? And the answer it gives is this huge, world-changing proclamation. It declares that the God of Israel is the one true, sovereign king over everything. He brings order just by speaking. The universe is his temple, and humanity is his royal image, commissioned to care for his world. It's a story about identity, authority, and purpose. Now, looking at it this way doesn't magically solve every science and faith debate, but it does invite us to shift our whole focus away from arguing about a timeline and toward thinking about our own role in this cosmic temple. And it leaves us with one last big thought to chew on. How does really understanding what a text was trying to do back then change what it means for us right here, right now?